Elena's hands trembled as she balanced the silver tray of champagne glasses, weaving through the crowd of Seoul's elite in the dimly lit Gangnam lounge. The bass from the music thrummed through her chest, but it wasn't the sound that made her heart race. It was the face she'd just seen across the room. Daniel. Her ex-boyfriend. The man she'd fled halfway across the world to escape. No. It couldn't be him. Not here. Not in Seoul. But when she looked again, there he was, pushing through the crowd with that determined expression she knew too well. The same look he'd had when he'd shown up at her apartment unannounced. When he'd gone through her phone. When he'd convinced her that leaving him would be the biggest mistake of her life. Elena's tray wobbled. Champagne sloshed dangerously close to the rim of the glasses. She'd been in Korea for 2 years, working 3 jobs just to afford her cramped Gashawon room. She'd learned enough Korean to get by, made a few friends, and finally started to feel like she could breathe again. And now he was here, ruining everything. Elena. Daniel's voice cut through the music. Several heads turned. She had to move. Had to get away. But her supervisor was watching, and she couldn't afford to lose this catering gig. The convenience store job barely covered food, and the restaurant only gave her 3 shifts a week. She needed every one she could earn. Daniel was closer now, his hand reaching out. We need to talk. Now. Elena stepped back, her hip bumping into something solid. No, someone. She turned to apologize and found herself staring at the most intimidating man she'd ever seen. He sat in a circular booth, surrounded by men in expensive suits, all watching her with varying degrees of annoyance. The man she'd bumped into had sharp features, perfectly styled black hair, and eyes that could freeze fire. His charcoal suit probably cost more than 6 months of her rent. I'm so sorry Elena began, but Daniel's hand clamped around her wrist. Stop making a scene and come with me, Daniel hissed. Panic surged through Elena's body. She looked at the intimidating stranger, then at the empty space beside him on the booth's leather seat. It was insane. Absolutely crazy. But desperation made people do crazy things. Elena sat down on the stranger's lap. The entire booth went silent. The man beneath her went rigid, his conversation stopping mid-sentence. Elena felt every muscle in his body tense, felt the controlled power in the way he held himself perfectly still. She'd just made a terrible mistake. Elena, what the hell are you doing? Daniel's face flushed red. Get up right now. Before she could apologize and flee, she felt an arm wrap around her waist. Strong. Possessive. The stranger's voice was low, speaking in Korean to his associates. Then he switched to English, his accent slight but his words perfectly clear. Is there a problem here? He addressed Daniel with the kind of calm that suggested violence was always an option, just not the first one. Yes, there's a problem. That's my girlfriend, and she needs to stop playing games. Daniel reached for Elena's arm again. The stranger's grip on her waist tightened, not painfully but enough to keep her anchored. She could smell his cologne, expensive and subtle, mixed with something else. Danger maybe. The kind of danger that came with real power. Your girlfriend. The stranger tilted his head slightly. She seems terrified of you. That doesn't suggest much of a relationship. One of the men at the table stood up, tall and broad-shouldered, his hand moving to his jacket. Daniel noticed and took a step back. This is none of your business, man. Elena, I'm staying at the Hotel Shilla. Room 847. We're going to talk about this, whether you like it or not. Daniel pointed at her, then turned and disappeared into the crowd. Elena realized she was shaking. The stranger beneath her shifted slightly, and she scrambled to get up. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I just panicked and you were there and... Seat. His voice wasn't harsh, just firm. Your legs won't hold you right now. He was right. Elena's knees felt like water. She perched awkwardly on the edge of his thigh, trying to take up as little space as possible. The men around the table were staring at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to suspicion. The stranger leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Those 4 words, spoken so quietly that only she could hear them, broke something inside Elena. Tears pricked at her eyes, but she blinked them back furiously. She would not cry in front of these people. Taesung, clear the table. I need to speak with our guest privately. The stranger's tone shifted back to Korean, sharp and commanding. The men stood immediately, filing out of the booth without question. Taesung, the tall one who'd stood earlier, gave Elena a long look before leaving. It wasn't friendly. Once they were alone, the stranger gestured for Elena to sit properly on the booth seat. She did, putting a careful distance between them. Up close, She could see he was probably in his early 30s, with a jawline that could cut glass and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail about her. Thank you, Elena managed. I shouldn't have done that. I just saw him and I panicked. Who is he? The stranger pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. My ex-boyfriend. Daniel. I left the US 2 years ago to get away from him. He was controlling, manipulative. He'd check my phone, tell me what to wear, who I could see. The words tumbled out before Elena could stop them. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I don't know how he found me. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The stranger studied her face, then her clothes. Elena was suddenly aware of how she must look, her cheap catering uniform, her worn sneakers, the exhaustion that probably showed in every line of her face. You work here? He asked. I'm with the catering company. This is my third job today. I worked at a convenience store this morning, then a lunch shift at a restaurant in Hongdae. Elena wasn't sure why she was telling him this. Maybe because he'd helped her, or maybe because something about his directness made lies feel pointless. 3 jobs. He said it like he was filing the information away. And you're still barely getting by. It wasn't a question, but Elena nodded anyway. Seoul is expensive. My gashawan is tiny, but it's all I can afford. He'll come back, the stranger said, his eyes still on his phone. Men like him always do. Especially now that he's seen you with me. Elena's stomach dropped. What do you mean? He'll view me as competition. As a threat to his control over you. And he gave you his hotel information, which means he expects you to either come to him, or for him to come find you again. The stranger pocketed his phone and looked at her directly. How did he find you in Seoul? I don't know. I deleted all my social media. I didn't tell anyone where I was going except my mom, and she wouldn't tell him. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. Maybe he hired someone? A private investigator? Possible. Or he tracked your phone, your bank accounts, your student visa application. The stranger leaned back, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. You said you've been here 2 years. Student visa. Korean language and culture program at Yonsei. I wanted to study here, maybe find work eventually. I love Korea. Elena felt foolish admitting that to this stranger, but it was true. Despite the exhaustion and the poverty, Seoul had become her home in a way nowhere else ever had. Your Korean is decent, he said, switching to Korean himself. Thank you, Elena replied in the same language, grateful for the small compliment. He switched back to English. I'm going to ask you something, and you should think carefully before answering. Do you want this problem to go away permanently? There was something in his tone that made Elena's skin prickle. What do you mean by permanently? I mean Daniel gets on a plane back to America and never bothers you again. I can make that happen. He said it as casually as someone offering to buy her a coffee. Who are you? Elena asked, though she was starting to suspect the answer wouldn't be reassuring. A slight smile crossed his face, not quite reaching his eyes. My name is Jawon. I own this lounge, along with several other properties in Seoul. I have resources and connections that could solve your problem very efficiently. That's not really an answer. It's the answer you're going to get right now. Jawon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then back at her. My associate just informed me that your ex-boyfriend has been asking questions around Itaewon and Gangnam for the past week. He's been showing your photo to people, trying to find where you work and live. Elena's blood ran cold. A week. He's been here a week? According to the information I'm receiving, yes. He's determined. I'll give him that. Jawon's expression hardened. But determination without power is just stubbornness. And stubbornness can be broken. I don't want you to hurt him, Elena said quickly. I just want him to leave me alone. Interesting. He stalked you across an ocean, and you're still concerned about his well-being. Jawon tilted his head. That's either compassionate or foolish. I haven't decided which. Maybe both, Elena admitted. But I left America to start over, not to become someone who solves problems with violence. Who said anything about violence? Jawon's smile was sharp now. There are many ways to convince someone to leave. Violence is just the least creative option. Before Elena could respond, her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out with shaking hands. A text from Daniel. I saw you with that Korean guy. Playing games won't work, Elena. I'm not leaving Seoul without you. We're going to fix this, whether you want to or not. She showed Jawon the message without thinking. He read it, his jaw tightening. He's escalating. That's faster than I expected. Jiwon pulled out a business card and a pen, writing something on the back. This is my offer. Come work for me as my personal assistant. 5 million won per month. Plus I handle your Daniel problem. You'll manage my schedule, help with English correspondence, attend meetings with me. Standard assistant duties. Elena stared at the number he'd written. 5 million won was more than she made from all 3 jobs combined. It was enough to afford a real apartment, to eat more than ramen and convenience store kimbap, to maybe even save money for the first time in 2 years. Why would you offer me this? You don't know anything about me. I know you're desperate enough to sit on a stranger's lap to escape your ex. I know you work 3 jobs and still can't make ends meet. I know you came to a foreign country alone to escape an abusive relationship, which takes courage. Jiwon's eyes met hers. And I know you need help, whether you want to admit it or not. This is a business transaction. You need money and protection. I need someone who speaks native English and understands Western business culture. It's mutually beneficial. What's the catch? Elena asked. There's always a catch. The catch is that you'll see things in my line of work that you might find uncomfortable. You'll meet people who are dangerous. You'll need to be discreet, loyal, and smart enough to know when not to ask questions. Jiwon stood, adjusting his suit jacket. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. My number is on that card. Call me before 9 a.m. with your answer, or the offer expires. Wait, I don't even know your last name. Kang Jiwon. And you should know that once you accept this offer, you're under my protection. That means Daniel becomes my problem, not yours. But it also means you follow my rules. He looked down at her, and for a moment, something almost gentle crossed his features. Go home. Think about it. But don't take too long. Your ex isn't going to wait patiently. Jiwon walked away, his associates materializing from the shadows to flank him. Elena watched him disappear through a private door, then looked down at the card in her hand. The paper was thick, expensive. His name was embossed in both Korean and English, with a phone number but no business title. Her supervisor appeared, looking frantic. Elena, where have you been? You disappeared with your tray, and we have guests waiting. I'm sorry, I just needed a moment. Elena stood, her legs steadier now. Well, get back to work. And stay away from Mr. Kang's section. He doesn't like to be disturbed. The supervisor hurried away. So other people knew who Jiwon was. Knew to stay away from him. Elena pocketed the card and picked up her tray, but her mind was spinning. 5 million won. Protection from Daniel. But working for a man who was clearly involved in something dangerous. Something that made other people nervous. She served champagne for the rest of the night on autopilot. Hyper-aware of every man who might be Daniel. Every shadow that moved wrong. When her shift finally ended at 2 a.m., she took 3 different subway lines home, constantly checking to see if anyone was following her. Her gashawon was exactly as she'd left it. 4 walls barely wide enough for a single bed, a tiny desk, and a bathroom the size of a closet. But it was hers, and it was safe. For now. Elena sat on her bed and pulled out Jiwon's card. She searched his name on her phone. The results were sparse. A few mentions in Korean business articles about property acquisitions and nightclub ownership. Nothing about his personal life. Nothing that explained the kind of power she'd witnessed tonight. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. I'm not giving up on us. I love you too much to let you throw away what we had. You'll realize that soon. Elena's hands clenched around her phone. That was the thing about Daniel. He genuinely believed he loved her. He couldn't see that love wasn't supposed to feel like suffocation, like constantly walking on eggshells, like losing yourself piece by piece until you didn't recognize your own reflection. She looked at her bank account. 300,000 won left until next month's pay. Her rent was due in a week. She had half a bag of rice and some instant noodles. The restaurant had cut her hours, saying business was slow. Elena looked at Jiwon's card again, then at Daniel's message. 2 men, 2 very different kinds of danger. But at least with Jiwon, the danger felt honest. Straightforward. He'd told her exactly what the arrangement was. Daniel had spent 2 years telling her he loved her while systematically isolating her from everyone who cared about her. At 8:57 a.m., Elena called the number on the card. Jiwon answered on the second ring. Ms. Elena, I was wondering if you'd call. I accept your offer, Elena said, her voice steadier than she felt. When do I start? Today. I'll send a car to pick you up at 10 a.m. Text me your address. He paused, You made the right choice. I hope so, Elena said, but he'd already hung up. The car that arrived was a black Mercedes with tinted windows. The driver was the same man from last night, Taesung, who looked at her Gashawon building with thinly veiled disdain. He didn't speak to her during the drive to Gangnam, but Elena caught him watching her in the rearview mirror several times. Jiwon's office was in a sleek high-rise with a view of the Han River. The reception area was all marble and glass, minimalist and expensive. Taesung led her to the top floor, past security that nodded respectfully as they passed. Jiwon was on the phone when she entered, speaking rapid Korean. He gestured for her to sit. His office was even more impressive than the lobby, with floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture that looked like art installations. When he finished his call, he turned his full attention to Elena. In daylight, he was even more striking. There was something predatory about the way he moved, like violence was always just beneath the surface of his polished exterior. Welcome to your first day. We'll start with the basics. Jiwon opened a laptop and turned it toward her. These are my appointments for the next month. You'll manage all of them, coordinate with my various business partners, and ensure nothing conflicts. You'll also handle my English correspondence, as many of my international contacts prefer email to phone calls. Elena scanned the calendar. It was packed, multiple meetings every day, often late into the night. You'll accompany me to most of these meetings. Some you'll attend on my behalf. You'll take notes, remember names and faces, and tell me anything that seems unusual or noteworthy. Jiwon leaned back in his chair. You'll also live here. What? Elena looked up sharply. There's an apartment on the floor below this one. It's yours for as long as you work for me. Furnished, secure, and far more comfortable than your current living situation. You'll move in today. Taesung will handle the logistics. Jiwon's expression didn't invite argument. Your ex knows where you live now. That location is compromised. Elena's mouth went dry. How do you know he knows? Because I had someone watching your building last night. Daniel showed up at 3 a.m. He tried your door. When it didn't open, he waited outside for an hour before leaving. Jiwon's voice was matter-of-fact, but his eyes were cold. You were lucky you took multiple subway lines home. He would have followed you otherwise. The room spun slightly. Daniel had been at her door. While she was sleeping, he'd been right outside. Hey, breathe. Jiwon was suddenly closer, his hand on her shoulder. You're safe now. He won't get near you again. How can you promise that? Elena asked, hating how weak her voice sounded. Because people are afraid of me, Elena. And fear is a much more reliable motivator than love. Jiwon moved back to his desk. Now let's discuss rules. 1. You don't ask questions about the details of my business unless I volunteer the information. 2. What you see and hear in this office stays in this office. 3. You're professional at all times when we're in public. 4. If you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. Understood? Elena nodded, still processing the fact that she was essentially moving into her new boss's building. Good. Taesung will take you to the apartment now. Get settled, pack up your Gashawon, and be back here by 3 p.m. We have a meeting with a Japanese distributor who prefers English negotiations. Jiwon handed her a key card. This accesses the apartment, this floor, and the private elevator. Don't lose it. The apartment was stunning. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a bathroom with an actual bathtub, and windows that overlooked the city. Compared to her Gashawon, it felt like a palace. Taesung stood in the doorway, arms crossed. You should know what you're getting into. What do you mean? Elena asked. Jiwon Hyung doesn't do charity. If he's helping you, it's because he sees value in you beyond being an assistant. Taesung's expression was unreadable. He's not a bad man, but he's not a good one either. He exists in the gray spaces where most people are too afraid to go. Are you trying to scare me? Elena met his gaze. I'm trying to prepare you. Jiwon protects what's his. And once he decides you're under his protection, that's permanent. But it also means you're part of his world now, with everything that entails. Taesung pushed off from the doorframe. I'll drive you to get your things. We need to be back by 3. Packing her Gashawon took 20 minutes. Elena didn't own much. Clothes, books, a few photos of her family. It was depressing how easily her entire life fit into 2 bags. When they returned to the building, Taesung helped her carry everything up. As they were leaving the apartment, Elena noticed something on her old door. A note. Elena, I know you're avoiding me. That's okay. I understand you're scared of your feelings. But we need to talk. I'll be back. I love you, Daniel. Elena ripped the note down, her hands shaking with anger now instead of fear. He's persistent, Taesung observed. He's delusional, Elena corrected. She crumpled the note and threw it in a trash bin on the street. Let's go. I have a meeting to prepare for. The meeting with the Japanese distributor went better than Elena expected. Her job was mostly to take notes and clarify certain English phrases, but she found herself fascinated by how Jaewon operated. He was charming when he needed to be, intimidating when charm didn't work, and always in control. Afterwards, as they rode the elevator back to his office, Jaewon glanced at her. You did well. Natural. Not too eager, not too passive. Thank you, Elena said, surprised by how much the compliment meant. We have dinner with the city councilman tonight. 8 p.m. at Mingle's. Wear something formal. Taesung will take you shopping. Jaewon checked his watch. You have 3 hours. Wait, I don't need new clothes. Yes you do. You're representing me now. Image matters in this business. Jaewon's tone left no room for argument. Consider it part of your compensation package. Shopping with Taesung was surreal. He took her to boutiques in Cheongdam-dong, where a single dress cost more than her old monthly rent. When Elena protested, he simply said, Jaewon's orders, and handed her another outfit to try. She ended up with 3 dresses, 2 suits, and more shoes than she knew what to do with. Taesung paid with a black card without blinking. The dinner was at one of Seoul's most exclusive restaurants. Elena wore a midnight blue dress that hugged her curves in ways that made her self-conscious. Jaewon's eyes had lingered on her for a moment when she emerged from the apartment, but he said nothing, just offered his arm. The councilman, Park, was in his 50s with calculating eyes and a politician's smile. The conversation was carefully coded, full of euphemisms and unspoken meanings. Elena took notes, catching references to permits, zoning laws, and mutually beneficial arrangements. She was serving her role as translator when her phone buzzed. She ignored it, but it buzzed again. And again. Jaewon noticed. Excuse us for a moment, Councilman Park. He stood, his hand on Elena's elbow, guiding her away from the table. I'm sorry, I thought I'd silenced it. Elena began. Check it, Jaewon said quietly. Elena pulled out her phone. 7 messages from Daniel, each more aggressive than the last. The final one made her blood freeze. I know you're at Mingle's right now. I can see you through the window. You look beautiful in that dress. Who's the guy? Your new boyfriend? We need to talk. Now. Elena's head snapped up, scanning the windows. There across the street she saw him. Daniel, staring directly at her, his phone in his hand. Jaewon followed her gaze. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Dangerous. Deadly. Taesung, he said quietly into his phone. We have a situation at Mingle's. Handle it. What are you going to do? Elena asked, her heart pounding. Nothing you need to worry about. Jaewon guided her back to the table, his hand warm and steady on her back. Finish the meeting. Smile. Act like nothing is wrong. Elena tried, but her hands shook as she poured water. Councilman Park noticed, his eyebrows raising in question. My assistant is still adjusting to Seoul's social scene, Jaewon said smoothly. It can be overwhelming. Through the window, Elena saw Taesung and 2 other men approach Daniel. There was a brief conversation. Then Daniel was being escorted away. Not roughly but firmly. He looked back once, his expression furious, before disappearing around a corner. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. When they finally left, Jaewon's car was waiting. Inside, Elena finally allowed herself to shake. He was watching me. How did he know I'd be there? Her voice cracked. He's been following you. Probably all day. Jaewon poured her a glass of water from the car's minibar. Drink this. Then we're going to have a conversation about how to handle this situation permanently. Back at the building, Jaewon led her to his office rather than her apartment. He poured himself a whiskey, offered her one. She accepted, needing something to steady her nerves. That's not really a choice, Elena said. No, it's not. But I'm not interested in being fair to a man who stalked you across an ocean. Jaewon finished his whiskey. He'll be on a plane tomorrow morning. You'll never hear from him again. Elena should have argued. Should have said something about justice or morality or due process. Instead, she asked, why are you doing all this for me? I've been working for you for 1 day. Jaewon was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. Because when you sat on my lap last night, you were terrified but still brave enough to take action. Because you worked 3 jobs and never complained. Because you left everything behind to escape abuse, And that takes strength. He paused. And because I understand what it's like to need protection and have nowhere to turn. There was something in his voice, a hint of old pain, that made Elena see him differently. Not just as the dangerous, powerful man who could make problems disappear, but as someone who'd once been vulnerable too. Thank you, Elena said softly. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Do your job well. Stay safe. That's repayment enough. Jiwon stood, offering his hand to help her up. It's late. Get some rest. Tomorrow we have meetings all day, and you need to be sharp. Elena took his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. They were standing close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his body. Jiwon, she said, testing his name on her tongue. Yes. I'm glad I sat on your lap. The words came out before she could stop them. A slow smile crossed his face, genuine this time. So am I, Elena? So am I. He walked her to her apartment, waiting until she was safely inside before leaving. Elena stood in her new living room, looking out at the Seoul skyline, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Her phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. Ms. Elena, this is Taesung. Daniel has agreed to deportation. He will not contact you again. If he violates this agreement, there will be consequences. Sleep well. Elena deleted Daniel's contact information, blocked his number, and finally allowed herself to breathe. 2 floors above, Jiwon stood at his office window, looking out at the same skyline. Taesung entered without knocking. It's done. Daniel's on the morning flight to Los Angeles. I made it very clear what would happen if he returns. Taesung paused. You're getting attached to her. I'm protecting an employee, Jiwon said, not turning around. You're protecting her because you want to, not because you have to. Taesung moved to stand beside him. She's different from the others. She sees you and isn't afraid. She should be afraid, Jiwon said quietly. Maybe. But maybe you needed someone who isn't. Taesung headed for the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, Hyung, I think you made the right choice bringing her in. She's stronger than she looks. Alone again, Jiwon touched the window where he could see the light on in Elena's apartment. She was safe now. Under his protection. Part of his world. And for the first time in years, Kang Jiwon found himself looking forward to tomorrow, to seeing her face across his desk, to hearing her laugh at something Taesung said, to watching her navigate his dangerous world with grace and courage. He'd told her that fear was more reliable than love. But as he stood there in the darkness, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, he'd been wrong. 3 weeks passed in a blur of meetings, late nights, and carefully orchestrated business deals that Elena was learning to recognize for what they really were. Jiwon didn't deal in drugs or weapons, as far as she could tell. His empire was built on information, leverage, and the kind of connections that made powerful people nervous. He owned clubs, restaurants, and properties across Seoul, but those were just the visible pieces. The real power came from knowing everyone's secrets and never revealing his own. Elena found herself adapting faster than she'd expected. She learned to read the room during meetings, to catch the subtle signals Jiwon would give her with a glance or a gesture. She learned which business partners could be trusted and which ones Taesung watched with his hand near his jacket. She learned that Jiwon took his coffee black in the morning, and with cream after 8 p.m., that he was fluent in 4 languages, and that he never, ever made promises he couldn't keep. What she didn't learn was anything about his past. Jiwon deflected personal questions with the skill of someone who'd spent years building walls around himself. The few details she gathered came from Taesung during their drives across Seoul. He grew up in Busan, Taesung had told her one rainy afternoon. Rough neighborhood. His father died when he was 12, and his mother worked 3 jobs like you. He built everything from nothing, and he protects it viciously. Elena understood that kind of desperation, that clawing need to survive. Maybe that was why she didn't judge Jiwon's methods as harshly as she probably should have. It was a Thursday evening when everything shifted. Elena was working late in Jiwon's office, cross-referencing contracts while he took calls in Korean, his voice a low rumble in the background. She'd grown comfortable with these quiet hours, just the 2 of them and the city lights below. Her phone rang. An unknown Seoul number. Elena normally didn't answer those, but something made her pick up. Elena Torres. A woman's voice, American accent. Yes, who is this? My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm Daniel's sister. Please don't hang up. Elena's hand tightened on the phone. Jiwon noticed, his conversation pausing mid-sentence as he watched her. What do you want? Elena asked carefully. I want to apologize for my brother. I didn't know he'd followed you to Korea until he came back. He told me what happened, about the deportation, about the man you're working for. Sarah's voice was strained. Elena, I need to warn you. Daniel's not taking this well. He's been obsessing over you, over this Jawon person. He's talking about coming back, about how he can't let some gangster steal you from him. Elena's blood ran cold. He agreed to stay away. He signed papers. I know. But he's not thinking straight. He's been drinking, ranting about how you betrayed him, how he needs to save you from some Korean mafia boss. Sarah paused. Is that true? Is the man you're working for actually? Your brother is delusional. Elena cut her off, aware of Jawon's intense gaze on her. I left him because he was controlling and abusive. I came to Korea to start over. The man I work for gave me a legitimate job and protected me when Daniel showed up uninvited. I believe you. I do. Daniel has always had issues with control, with obsession. Our family's been trying to get him help for years. Sarah's voice cracked. But he bought another plane ticket to Seoul. He leaves tomorrow. I thought you should know. The call ended. Elena sat frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. Elena. Jawon's voice brought her back. He was standing now, moving around his desk toward her. What happened? Daniel's coming back. Tomorrow. Elena looked up at him, fear and anger warring in her chest. His sister just called to warn me. He's obsessed. He thinks you're some kind of criminal holding me hostage. Jawon's expression darkened in a way Elena had never seen before. It wasn't anger exactly. It was something colder, more calculated. Dangerous. Call Taesung, he said into his phone. We have a situation. Elena's ex is returning to Seoul tomorrow. I want to know his flight number, arrival time, and hotel reservation within the hour. He paused listening. No. This time we do it differently. He had his chance to walk away. What are you going to do? Elena asked, standing up. Jawon, you can't hurt him. His sister knows about you now. If something happens to him. I'm not going to hurt him. Jawon's hand cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. But I am going to make sure he understands, permanently, that you are off limits. The tenderness of his touch contrasted sharply with the ice in his voice. Elena found herself leaning into his palm without meaning to, drawn to the safety he represented even as she worried about the methods he might use. You're shaking, Jawon observed softly. I thought this was over. I thought I was finally free of him. Elena's voice broke. Why can't he just let me go? Because men like Daniel don't see women as people. They see possessions. And he thinks someone took what belongs to him. Jawon's other hand came up to frame her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. But you don't belong to him, Elena. You never did. And you never will again. Who do I belong to then? The question slipped out before Elena could think better of it. Jawon's eyes darkened, his gaze dropping to her lips for just a moment before returning to her eyes. Yourself. You belong to yourself. I just make sure no one forgets that. The air between them felt charged, electric. Elena was suddenly aware of how close they were standing, how Jawon's hands on her face felt both protective and possessive, how her heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with Daniel. Jawon seemed to realize it too. He stepped back, his hands dropping away, leaving Elena feeling oddly bereft. You should go to your apartment. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or Taesung. Jawon's voice was back to business, though his eyes still held that heated intensity. I'll handle Daniel when he arrives. I want to be there, Elena said firmly. No. Jawon, this is my problem. I should face him. It stopped being just your problem the moment you sat on my lap, and I chose to protect you. Jawon moved back to his desk, already pulling up information on his computer. You being there would only make him more volatile. Let me handle this. I'm not some damsel who needs to hide while the men fight, Elena argued, frustration bleeding into her voice. Jawon looked up, and there was something almost like admiration in his expression. No, you're not. You're brave and strong and more capable than you give yourself credit for. But bravery isn't about facing every fight head-on. Sometimes it's about trusting the right people to fight for you. And you're the right people? In this case, yes. Jawon's phone buzzed with a message. He scanned it quickly. Daniel lands at Incheon at 2 p.m. tomorrow. He's booked a hotel in Itaewon, probably hoping to blend in with the foreign crowd there. Taesung will intercept him at the airport. And then what? Then I have a conversation with him. A final one. Jawon stood, grabbing his jacket. Come on. I'm not letting you out of my sight until this is resolved. You're staying in my apartment tonight. Elena's eyes widened. Your apartment? The guest room, Jaewon clarified, though something flickered in his eyes. My place has better security. Taesung will bring your things. Elena wanted to argue, but the truth was she felt safer near Jaewon than she had anywhere else in years. Okay. Jaewon's apartment was on the same floor as his office, accessed through a private entrance. It was masculine and minimalist, all clean lines and dark colors, but somehow warm. Books in multiple languages lined one wall, and Elena spotted several framed photos on a shelf, the only personal items she'd seen him display. The guest room is through there. Jaewon pointed to a hallway. Bathroom is stocked with everything you need. Make yourself comfortable. Elena nodded but found herself drawn to the photos. One showed a young Jaewon, maybe 16, with an older woman who had his same sharp features. They were both smiling, genuinely happy. Another showed him with Taesung and several other men, all younger, all wearing expressions that suggested they'd been through hell together. My mother, Jaewon said quietly from behind her. She passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry, Elena said, meaning it. She would have liked you. She always said I needed someone who wasn't afraid to challenge me. Jaewon moved to the kitchen, pulling out a bottle of wine. She worked as a seamstress, sometimes 18-hour days, to keep us fed after my father died. She taught me that survival requires sacrifice. It was the most personal thing Jaewon had ever shared with her. Elena turned to face him, seeing the grief he usually kept locked away. She'd be proud of what you've built, Elena said. She'd be horrified by how I built it. Jaewon poured 2 glasses of wine, offering one to Elena. But she'd understand why. That's the thing about mothers. They see past what you do to why you do it. Elena accepted the glass, their fingers brushing. That electric feeling was back, stronger now in the intimate setting of his home. My mom was like that too, Elena said. When I told her I was leaving Daniel and moving to Korea, she didn't ask questions. She just helped me pack and drove me to the airport at 4 in the morning, so he wouldn't know I was leaving. Smart woman. She was terrified for me, but she understood that staying would have destroyed me eventually. Elena took a sip of wine. It was expensive, smooth. I call her every week, but I haven't told her about Daniel coming here. She'd worry. After tomorrow, you won't need to tell her. This will be over. Jaewon's voice held absolute certainty. They drank in comfortable silence for a moment. The city glittering below them through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Can I ask you something? Elena ventured. You can ask. I may not answer. Why do you live like this? Alone, surrounded by luxury but no people? Elena gestured at the immaculate, but impersonal space. You have Taesung and your other men, but no family, no friends, no girlfriend. Jaewon finished, a slight smile playing at his lips. Is that what you're asking? Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks. I'm asking why someone as powerful as you seems so isolated. Jaewon studied her for a long moment, something unreadable in his expression. Because relationships are vulnerabilities. The people I care about become targets. It's easier, safer, to keep everyone at a distance. That sounds lonely. It is, Jaewon admitted quietly. But loneliness is better than getting people hurt because they're connected to me. Is that why you keep me at arm's length? Elena asked, emboldened by the wine and the intimacy of the moment. Why you step back every time we get too close? Jaewon's jaw tightened. Elena. Because I feel it, Jaewon. This thing between us. I know you feel it too. Elena set down her wine glass, her heart pounding. And I know it's probably a terrible idea. You're my boss, you're involved in things I don't fully understand, and I've barely escaped one bad relationship. But I can't keep pretending there's nothing here. Jaewon set down his own glass very carefully, his control evident in every measured movement. You're right. There is something here. And that's exactly why we can't pursue it. Why not? Because you deserve someone safe. Someone normal. Someone who doesn't have enemies and blood on his hands and secrets that could destroy you. Jaewon's voice was rough. I can protect you from Daniel, from external threats. But who protects you from me? Elena stepped closer, closing the distance between them. Maybe I don't need protection from you. Maybe I need you to stop deciding what's best for me and let me make my own choices. Elena. It came out almost like a warning. I'm not asking for forever, Jaewon. I'm not asking for promises. I'm just asking you to stop pretending you don't feel this too. Elena reached up, her hand resting on his chest. She could feel his heart racing beneath her palm. We're both so careful, so controlled. Don't you ever want to just... Jiwon's control snapped. His hand came up to tangle in her hair, tilting her head back as he kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was hungry, desperate, like he'd been holding back for weeks and couldn't anymore. Elena melted into him, her hands clutching his shirt as she kissed him back with equal intensity. This was different from anything she'd felt with Daniel. This was fire and safety all at once, passion without fear, desire without control. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jiwon rested his forehead against hers. "This is a mistake," he said, but his arms were still around her, holding her close. "Probably," Elena agreed. "But I'm tired of playing it safe. Safe got me Daniel. Safe got me trapped and scared and running away." "I don't want to hurt you," Jiwon said quietly. "Then don't." Elena pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "But don't push me away either. Let me choose this." "Choose you." Jiwon's thumb traced her lower lip, his expression torn between desire and restraint. "If we do this, there are rules. You're still my employee. We're professional in public. And if it ever becomes too much, if you want out, you tell me and it ends. No questions, no consequences for your job." "Agreed," Elena said. "And one more rule. You stop treating me like I'm fragile. I can survive whatever comes with being with you." A real smile crossed Jiwon's face, transforming his usually serious features. "You're going to be trouble, aren't you?" "Definitely," Elena said, smiling back. He kissed her again, slower this time, savoring it. When he pulled away, his expression had shifted back to business, though his hand stayed on her waist. "Guest room," he said firmly. "You need sleep, and I need to make sure everything is in place for tomorrow." Jiwon. "Guest room, Elena. We have time. And I want to do this right. Not rushed because we're both worried about your ex." His hand cupped her face. "When I take you to my bed, it won't be because we're scared or desperate. It'll be because we both want it and nothing else is in the way." Elena felt warmth flood through her at the certainty in his voice. "Not if, but when." "Okay," she agreed softly. Jiwon walked her to the guest room, lingering in the doorway. "Lock the door. I'll be right across the hall if you need anything." "Jiwon." Elena called as he turned to leave. "Yes. Thank you for protecting me, for giving me this job, for..." She gestured between them. "For this." His smile was soft, genuine. "Thank you for being brave enough to sit on a stranger's lap in a moment of desperation." Elena Barelay slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's face, angry and determined. But mixed with the anxiety was something else, something warm that settled in her chest whenever she thought about Jiwon's kiss. The way he'd looked at her like she was both precious and dangerous. Around 6 a.m., she gave up on sleep and padded out to the kitchen in the oversized shirt Taesung had brought from her apartment. The smell of coffee hit her immediately. Jiwon was already up, dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, his hair still slightly damp from a shower. He looked up from his laptop when she entered, his eyes tracking over her sleep-rumpled appearance with an intensity that made her skin flush. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, pouring her a cup of coffee without being asked. He remembered she took it with cream and 1 sugar. "Too much on my mind." Elena accepted the mug gratefully, wrapping her hands around its warmth. "What time does his flight land?" 2 p.m. "But we're not waiting at the airport." Jiwon gestured for her to sit at the kitchen island. "I've arranged something more private. Taesung will bring him to a warehouse I own in Seong-Sadong. Neutral territory, no cameras, no witnesses except my people." Elena's stomach twisted. "That sounds ominous." "It's meant to be. Daniel needs to understand that this isn't a game, that there are real consequences for his obsession." Jiwon's voice was calm, almost casual, but Elena could see the steel beneath. "I'm not going to hurt him physically, Elena. But I am going to make sure he's more afraid of coming back to Korea than he is obsessed with you." "How?" Jiwon pulled up several documents on his laptop, turning the screen toward her. "These are Daniel's financial records. Taesung's team has been thorough. Your ex has been embezzling from his employer for 2 years, about $200,000 total. Small amounts, clever accounting, but still very illegal." Elena stared at the numbers, shocked. Daniel was stealing? Quite successfully until now. He's also been filing fraudulent tax returns and has several outstanding warrants for unpaid parking tickets that have escalated to bench warrants. Jiwon scrolled through more documents. None of this is major crime, but it's enough to destroy his career and potentially put him in prison for several years. And you're going to use this to threaten him. I'm going to give him a choice. Leave Korea immediately and permanently, forget you exist, and these documents never reach the FBI and IRS. Or continue his obsession, and find himself arrested the moment he steps off the plane back in America. Ji-won closed the laptop. It's actually generous, considering what I could do. Elena knew she should feel bad for Daniel, but all she felt was relief. Will it work? Yes. Because unlike his feelings for you, his fear of prison is entirely rational. Ji-won moved around the island to stand beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder. By tonight this will be over. You'll be free of him completely. Elena leaned into his touch, drawing strength from his presence. I want to come with you. To the warehouse. I need to see his face when you tell him it's over. Elena. Please. You said I'm not fragile. Prove it. Let me be there when you end this. Elena turned to face him fully. I need closure, Ji-won. I need to look him in the eye and know that I'm not his anymore, that I never was. Ji-won studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right. But you stay with Taesung the entire time, and if I tell you to leave, you leave immediately. Understood. Understood. The warehouse was exactly what Elena expected. Industrial, isolated, and intimidating. Shipping containers lined one wall, and the space smelled of metal and oil. Ji-won's men were positioned strategically around the perimeter, professional and silent. Taesung stood beside Elena near the entrance, his hand resting casually on his jacket where she knew he kept a gun. She tried not to think about that too hard. He'll be here in 10 minutes, Taesung said, checking his phone. Are you sure you want to see this? I'm sure. Elena's voice was steadier than she felt. Ji-won Hyung cares about you. More than he's cared about anyone in a long time. Taesung's eyes stayed on the entrance. He's doing this for you, but also because he can't stand the idea of someone hurting what's his. I'm not his property, Elena said automatically. No, but you're his person. There's a difference. Taesung glanced at her. He doesn't let people in. The fact that you're here, that he's allowing you to see this side of his world, means something. Before Elena could respond, a black van pulled up. Two of Ji-won's men got out first, then dragged a struggling Daniel from the back. Elena's ex looked terrible. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, and he had the manic energy of someone who hadn't slept properly in days. When he saw her, his expression twisted between relief and anger. Elena. Thank God. These psychos kidnapped me from the airport. Call the police. Daniel tried to move toward her, but the men holding him tightened their grip. Ji-won emerged from the shadows where he'd been waiting, his presence commanding immediate attention. He looked every inch the dangerous man he was, cold and controlled. Mr. Patterson. Welcome back to Seoul. Though I thought we had an agreement about you staying away. Ji-won's voice was pleasant, which somehow made it more menacing. Who the hell are you to make agreements about my girlfriend? Daniel spat. Elena, I don't know what he's told you, but I'm here to save you. This guy is a criminal. I'm not your girlfriend, Elena said, stepping forward despite Taesung's warning hand on her arm. I haven't been your girlfriend for 2 years. You need to let me go, Daniel. Baby, he's brainwashed you. Can't you see that? You're working for a gangster, living in his building. He's using you. Daniel's voice rose desperately. I love you. We can fix this. Just come home with me. I am home. Elena's voice was firm. I built a life here. I have a job, an apartment, friends. I'm happy. And none of that has anything to do with you. You can't be happy with him. He's dangerous. He's the man who protected me when you stalked me across the world. Elena cut him off. He's the man who gave me opportunities when I was working myself to exhaustion. He's the man who respects my choices instead of making them for me. Ji-won's expression flickered with something soft when she defended him, but it hardened again as he turned back to Daniel. Normally, I'd let my associates handle this. But since you've made Elena's life difficult, I'm making an exception. Ji-won pulled out a folder, tossing it at Daniel's feet. Those are copies of your financial crimes. Embezzlement, tax fraud, some other interesting discoveries. The originals are ready to be sent to the FBI, IRS, and your employer. Daniel's face went white as one of the men forced him to crouch and look at the documents. Where did you get these? I have resources. And I'm very thorough when someone threatens what's mine. Ji-won moved closer, his voice dropping to something lethal. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get on the next flight back to America. You're going to delete Elena's number, forget her email, erase her from your memory. You will never contact her again, never come to Korea again, never even think about her again. And if I don't? Daniel tried to sound defiant, but his voice shook. Then these documents get sent, you get arrested the moment you land in Los Angeles, and you spend the next 5 to 10 years in federal prison. Your career ends, your reputation is destroyed, and your family learns exactly what kind of man you really are. Jaewon crouched down to Daniel's eye level. But it doesn't end there. I have friends in American prisons. Very unpleasant friends who don't like men who stalk and abuse women. Your time inside would be exceptionally difficult. Daniel's breathing became rapid, panicked. You can't do this. This is blackmail. Yes, it is. But I prefer to think of it as motivation. Jaewon stood back up. You have 10 seconds to decide. Prison or freedom? Choose. I choose to leave. I'll leave. I won't contact her again. Daniel was crying now. The reality of his situation crashing down. Please just let me go home. Smart choice. Jaewon nodded to his men. Taesung will escort you back to the airport. There's a flight to LAX in 3 hours. You'll be on it. One of my people will be on the same flight, watching you. If you try to run, if you try to contact Elena, if you so much as look up her name online, those documents get sent. Am I clear? Yes. Yes, I understand. Daniel was shaking now, all his bravado gone. Elena stepped forward one last time. Daniel, I hope you get help. I hope you figure out why you can't let people go, why you need to control them. But that's not my problem anymore. I'm done being your victim. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment something like understanding crossed his face. You're different. Stronger. I always was. You just tried to make me forget it. Elena turned away from him, toward Jaewon. I'm ready to go. Jaewon nodded to Taesung, who started dragging Daniel back toward the van. As they drove away, Elena felt something release in her chest. A weight she'd been carrying for years, finally lifting. Jaewon's hand found hers, warm and solid. How do you feel? Free, Elena said and meant it. I actually feel free. Good. Jaewon pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her in a rare public display of affection. His men politely looked away. He's gone now. He won't come back. Elena buried her face in his chest, breathing in his scent, letting herself feel safe. Thank you. I know your methods aren't conventional, but thank you for ending this. I'd do worse for you. Jaewon said quietly into her hair. And that should probably scare you, but I hope it doesn't. Elena pulled back to look at him. It doesn't. Is that wrong? Maybe, but I'm not exactly in a position to judge. His thumb brushed across her cheek. Come on. Let's get out of here. I'm taking the rest of the day off. Kang Jaewon taking a day off? That doesn't sound like you. Well, I have something more important to do than work. His eyes held that heated intensity again. I believe I made a promise about doing things right, without distractions or fear getting in the way. Elena's heart skipped. And now there are no distractions? Now there's nothing standing between us except our own choices. Jaewon led her to his car, opening the door for her. So choose, Elena. Do you want me to take you home? Give you space to process everything that just happened? Or do you want to come with me? Elena thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, terrified and running. Then she thought about the woman she was now, strong enough to face her demons and brave enough to choose what she wanted. I choose you, she said, sliding into the car. I choose this. Whatever it is. Jaewon's smile was brilliant, transforming his usually serious face. Good answer. The drive back to his building was charged with anticipation. Jaewon's hand rested on her thigh, a promise of what was coming. When they reached his apartment, he pulled her inside and pressed her against the closed door, kissing her with an intensity that made her knees weak. Last chance to change your mind, he murmured against her lips. Stop giving me outs and just kiss me, Elena demanded, pulling him closer. Jaewon laughed, the sound rare and genuine, before capturing her mouth again. This time there was no holding back, no carefully maintained control. His hands roamed over her body, learning her curves, and Elena's fingers worked at the buttons of his shirt, needing to feel his skin against hers. They barely made it to his bedroom, leaving a trail of clothes behind them. When Jaewon laid her on his bed, his eyes dark with desire, Elena felt powerful in a way she never had before. This wasn't about possession or control. This was mutual want, mutual choice. You're beautiful, Jaewon said, his voice rough. I've wanted this since the moment you sat on my lap, looking terrified but brave. I've wanted this since you whispered that you'd protect me, Elena admitted. I should have been scared of you, but all I felt was safe. You are safe. With me you're always safe. Jiwon kissed her again, slower this time, savoring it. I'll protect you from everything. Even myself if I have to. I don't need protection from you. I just need you. Elena pulled him down to her, and the rest of the world fell away. Hours later, Elena lay tangled in Jiwon's sheets, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her back, both of them in that peaceful space between sleep and waking. What happens now? Elena asked quietly. With us, I mean. Now we figure it out as we go. Jiwon pressed a kiss to her forehead. I'm not good at relationships. I don't know how to do this without my usual level of control. Then we learn together. I'm not exactly an expert either. Elena propped herself up to look at him. But I know I want to try. With you. Even knowing what I am? What I do. You're not just what you do, Jiwon. You're also the man who takes care of his people, who kept his promises to his mother, who gave a struggling student a chance when he didn't have to. Elena's hand rested on his cheek. Yes, you're dangerous. Yes, your world is complicated. But you're also kind in your own way and loyal, and you make me feel like I matter. Jiwon's eyes closed briefly, like her words affected him deeply. You do matter. More than you should, probably. More than is safe for either of us. Safe is overrated, Elena said, echoing her words from the night before. You keep saying that. I'm going to hold you to it when things get complicated. Things are already complicated. We'll handle it. Elena kissed him softly. Together. 6 months later, Elena stood in Jiwon's office, reviewing contracts for a new property acquisition in Gangnam. The work had become second nature to her now. She understood the coded language, the careful negotiations, the delicate balance of power that Jiwon maintained in his world. She'd also learned that while his methods were unconventional, he operated by a strict moral code. He protected the vulnerable, punished those who preyed on the weak, and never broke his word. You're smiling, Jiwon observed from his desk, looking up from his own paperwork. What are you thinking about? How different my life is now compared to a year ago. Elena set down the contracts and moved to the window, looking out at the Seoul skyline. A year ago, I was terrified, broke, working myself to death just to survive. Now I'm negotiating million-dollar deals and living in a beautiful apartment. And sharing my bed, Jiwon added with a smirk, standing to join her at the window. His arms wrapped around her waist from behind, pulling her back against his chest. That too, Elena agreed, leaning into him. Though we're still keeping that part private at work. Taesung knows. Everyone knows. They're just smart enough not to mention it. Jiwon pressed a kiss to her neck. But yes, maintaining professional boundaries in public is probably wise. Elena turned in his arms to face him. I got an email from my mother this morning. She wants to visit Seoul next month. Meet my boss properly. Jiwon's expression flickered with something that might have been nervousness. She wants to meet the dangerous Korean man her daughter is working for? She wants to meet the man who protected her daughter and gave her a new life. Elena's hands rested on his chest. I told her about us. About everything. Well, not everything, but enough. And she didn't immediately book a flight to rescue you from the Mafia boss? Jiwon's tone was light, but Elena could see the genuine concern underneath. She said, and I quote, "If he makes you happy and keeps you safe, then he has my blessing. But if he ever hurts you, I'm coming to Korea with a frying pan." Elena laughed at the memory. I think you'll like her. She's fierce when it comes to protecting the people she loves. I wonder where you get it from, Jiwon murmured, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I'd be honored to meet her. Though I should probably tone down the intimidating businessman routine. Please don't. She'll see right through any act. Just be yourself. Elena kissed him softly. She'll love you because I love you. The words slipped out before Elena could stop them. They'd been dancing around that particular declaration for months now, both feeling it but neither saying it first. The air between them went still. Jiwon's eyes darkened with emotion. Say that again. I love you, Elena repeated, more certain this time. I know it's complicated and probably crazy, but I do. I love you, Jiwon. Elena. He said her name like a prayer, his forehead resting against hers. I've loved you since you were brave enough to sit on my lap and trust a stranger to protect you. I've loved you through every late night in this office, every smile, every moment you challenged me or stood your ground. I just didn't know how to say it. You just did, Elena said, tears pricking her eyes. Happy tears this time. Jiwon kissed her deeply, pouring everything he felt into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he kept her close. I want to do something, he said suddenly. Something I've never done before. What's that? Take a vacation. A real one. Not a business trip disguised as leisure, but actual time off. Just you and me. Jiwon's hands framed her face. Where do you want to go? Elena thought for a moment. Jeju Island. I've always wanted to see it, but never had the time or money. Jeju it is. I'll have Taesung clear my schedule for next week. Jiwon was already reaching for his phone. Next week? Just like that. Elena laughed, amazed at how easily he could rearrange his entire life. Just like that. I've spent years building this empire. Working every day, always being available. I think I can take a week off for the woman I love. Jiwon's smile was soft. Besides, I want to see you on a beach, relaxed and happy without any shadows from the past hanging over us. Elena's heart swelled. This man, who controlled so much of Seoul's underworld, who could be terrifying when he needed to be, was planning a romantic vacation just to see her smile. A knock on the door interrupted them. Taesung entered, his expression apologetic. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation that needs your attention. Jiwon sighed, pressing one more kiss to Elena's forehead before stepping back into business mode. What is it? Nothing major. Just the Busan deal needs some final negotiation. Taesung glanced at Elena with a slight smile. Though it can probably wait until after your vacation to Jeju. You were listening at the door, weren't you? Jiwon asked, but there was no real annoyance in his voice. The whole floor heard you too. These walls aren't as thick as you think. Taesung's smile widened. For what it's worth, I'm happy for you both. You're good for him, Elena. He's been more human in the past 6 months than I've seen him in years. Elena felt herself blush. Thank you, Taesung. After Taesung left to handle the Busan situation, Elena returned to her contracts, but her mind kept drifting. 6 months ago, she'd been terrified of Daniel, barely surviving, with no idea what her future held. Now she had a career she was good at, a man she loved who loved her back, and actual plans for the future. Her phone buzzed with a text from her friend Mina, a Korean girl she'd met at a language exchange. Coffee tomorrow? I want to hear all about this mysterious boyfriend you keep mentioning. Elena smiled, typing back a confirmation. She'd been cautious about making friends, worried that getting close to people might put them at risk given Jiwon's world. But Jiwon had encouraged her to live a full life, not just exist in his shadow. You're smiling again, Jiwon observed. Just thinking about how lucky I am. How far I've come. Elena looked at him across the office. A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be here, doing this with you, I wouldn't have believed them. Life has a way of surprising us. Jiwon stood, gathering his jacket. Come on, let's get out of here early. I want to take you to dinner, somewhere nice, where I can show off the brilliant woman who's stolen my heart. Mr. Kong, are you asking me on a date? Elena Tacid. Miss Torres, I'm telling you we're going on a date. There's a difference. But his eyes were warm, playful. I'm still a controlling businessman after all. As long as you're my controlling businessman, Elena said, taking his offered hand. They went to a quiet restaurant in Cheongdam-dong, the kind of place where privacy was guaranteed, and the food was exquisite. Jiwon had reserved a private room overlooking a traditional Korean garden, lit by paper lanterns as the sun set. This is beautiful, Elena said, taking in the view. Not as beautiful as you. Jiwon poured her wine, his eyes never leaving her face. I meant what I said earlier. About loving you. I don't say things I don't mean. I know. That's one of the things I love about you. You're honest, even when the truth is hard. Elena raised her glass. To new beginnings? To new beginnings, Jiwon echoed, clinking his glass against hers. And to the brave woman who sat on my lap and changed everything. They talked through dinner about everything and nothing. Jiwon told her stories about growing up in Busan, about his mother and the struggles they'd faced. Elena shared memories of her own childhood, of her dreams that had seemed impossible before she came to Korea. I'm thinking about going back to university, Elena said between courses. Maybe getting a business degree properly. You've taught me so much, but I want to formalize that knowledge. I think that's an excellent idea. And I know several professors at Seoul National University who owe me favors. Jiwon's smile was proud. Though you'd get in on your own merit. You're brilliant, Elena. You're biased. I'm honest. There's a difference. He reached across the table, taking her hand. Whatever you want to do, wherever you want to go, I'll support you, even if it means you eventually outgrow being my assistant. I could never outgrow you, Elena said softly. You're not just my boss, Jiwon. You're my partner. My home. Something fierce and tender crossed Jiwon's face. You're my home too. I didn't even know I was looking for one until you crashed into my life. As they finished dinner and prepared to leave, Elena's phone buzzed. An email notification. She glanced at it and froze. What is it? Jiwon was immediately alert, noticing her expression. It's from Daniel's sister, Sarah. Elena opened the email, reading quickly. She says Daniel started therapy. He's been diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive personality disorder and is getting treatment. She wanted me to know that he's actually getting help, and she wanted to apologize again for everything he put me through. Jiwon read over her shoulder, his jaw tight. How do you feel about that? Relieved, I think. I never wanted him to suffer, just to leave me alone and get better. Elena looked up at Jiwon. Does that make me weak? That I'm glad he's getting help. It makes you compassionate, which is one of the many reasons I love you. Jiwon pulled her close. You have every right to hate him for what he did, but you choose understanding instead. That takes strength, not weakness. Elena leaned into him, grateful for his steady presence. I'm going to write back to Sarah, thank her for letting me know. And then I'm going to delete this email and never think about Daniel again. Sounds like a perfect plan. I love you, Elena said again, still marveling at how easy those words had become. I love you too, Jiwon replied, his voice warm with promise. And I'll protect you always. Not because you need protection, but because loving you means standing beside you through everything. Through everything, Elena echoed, sealing the promise with a kiss. The future stretched out before them, uncertain and full of challenges. But they would face it together, the brave woman and the dangerous man who'd found something neither had been looking for. A love that was both safe and thrilling, gentle and fierce, unexpected and absolutely perfect. And it all started with one desperate decision, one moment of courage, and 4 whispered words. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Did Elena and Jiwon's love story capture your heart? If you enjoyed watching Elena transform from a terrified woman running from her past to a confident woman who found love in the most unexpected place, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our captivating romance stories. What did you think of their journey? Would you have been brave enough to sit on a stranger's lap to escape danger? Have you ever had to make a scary decision that ended up changing your life for the better? Share your thoughts and your own stories in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust yourself to make the right choice, even when it seems dangerous. Until next time, keep believing in our unexpected love stories. See you in the next video.